Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on an incredible story. It's about absolute devotion, shocking betrayal, and the secrets that brought a man who called himself God crashing right back down to earth.
I mean, really think about that. That question is at the very heart of the wild downfall of Father Divine and his peace mission movement. And believe it or not, it all started with one woman who just decided she'd had enough.
All right, so our story begins with a woman known to everyone as Faithful Mary. And for more than a decade, she was the perfect, shining example of Father Divine's supposed redemptive power. So who was this Faithful Mary? Well, she'd been rescued from a really tough life of homelessness and addiction. The movement gave her a new purpose, and her incredible recovery was held up as living proof that Father Divine was the real deal. She became their poster girl. She was so trusted, she even got to run her very own mission branch. She was, for all intents and purposes, the ultimate success story. But everything, and I mean everything, changed when this number came into play. $10,000. A potential donor offered this money to Mary's struggling mission, and this one single act of charity would end up sparking a massive conflict. See, this created a huge problem. Father Divine had built his entire public image on being completely self-sustaining. He famously told the press he never, ever accepted donations. But Mary was on the ground. She knew her mission desperately needed that cash just to pay rent and keep the lights on. So what did she do? Well, she went behind his back, she took the money, put half of it toward the mission, and the other half into her own personal account. But secrets don't stay secret for long. Father Divine found out. He demanded she return it, but Mary refused. And for that, after more than a decade of unwavering loyalty, he kicked her out. Just like that. Exiled, and you can imagine absolutely furious, Mary wasn't about to go away quietly. No way. She held the keys to all of Father Divine's secrets, and she was about to unlock that door for the whole world to see. She immediately ran to the press and started writing this bombshell expose. Her goal was simple: to prove that Father Divine wasn't a god at all. He was just a man, using a religious movement for his own selfish gain. And the world Mary was about to reveal was just a shocking contradiction to his public image. The public saw this selfless, humble leader. Mary revealed a man living a ridiculously lavish lifestyle, all funded by secret cash donations from his followers. The movement was supposed to be completely celibate, but Mary claimed it was actually a hotbed of sexual activity. According to Mary, those weekly cash collections weren't just for the mission's food banks. Oh no. They were paying for Father Divine's designer suits, his whole fleet of custom Rolls Royces, and his frequent exotic vacations. This supposedly selfless leader was living like a king. But you know, the financial hypocrisy, that was nothing compared to the sexual allegations. Mary accused Divine of being, and this is her exact quote, a religious gigolo masquerading as God, who was preying on his female followers. According to Mary, the movement's core belief in celibacy was a total sham. She claimed Divine regularly had sex with his female followers, his so-called angels, convincing them it was a personal blessing from God. She even alleged that homosexual orgies took place inside the mission buildings. The scandal was, as you can imagine, absolutely enormous. Now, while the movement somehow managed to survive that first wave of scandals, time itself was about to reveal the biggest lie of all. Father Divine was not immortal. He was just a man. This was one of his biggest, most central promises. Absolute obedience to him would grant you eternal life. It's a pretty compelling offer, right? But it's also a promise that's kind of impossible to keep. So this created a huge problem. If the man who claimed to be God couldn't even save his own wife from dying, what did that say about his promises to everyone else? His reaction was pretty telling. He just refused to acknowledge her death for years. Sources said he was personally terrified, confronted with the reality that he too was mortal. It was a terrible look and a major crack in his whole divine facade. The decline just sped up after his wife's death. He quickly married a 21-year-old follower, probably seeing her as his successor. The 1950s were just filled with non-stop bad press. And by the 60s, as his own health began to fail, he basically retreated from public view altogether. And here's another one of his core teachings. He preached his entire life that you didn't need doctors or medicine. Nope. If you were sick, you could just heal yourself with positive thinking. He said that acknowledging an illness was what made it real. But behind the scenes, the ultimate hypocrisy was playing out. The man who preached against even acknowledging illness was secretly battling a severe and worsening case of diabetes. And this brings us to the end of his story, and the final haunting image of a man who built an entire empire on the idea that he was something more than human. In the very end, his wife would have to bring him out to public gatherings just to prove that he was still alive. But if you see the footage from the time, it's just this frail man, completely vacant, unable to even speak. The powerful, charismatic God was gone, replaced by a sick, elderly man. And that leaves all of us with the ultimate question. Was this whole thing just a calculated, cynical con from the very beginning? Or did he get so caught up in the myth he created that he too started to believe he really was a god, only to be confronted by the terrifying, unavoidable reality of his own mortality at the very end?